Hey, Joe Walsh here. Since the beginning of time, man has sought land. Wars fought, treaties signed, marriages arranged, continents traversed, all in the eternal pursuit of land. But you don't have to go through any of that nonsense. Just get on governmentauction.com and bid against other people interested in surplus land in states all over the country. California, Wyoming, Colorado, Florida, just to name a few. It's all there at governmentauction.com. If you're the winning bidder, you don't need to go through any credit checks. You just make a few down payments and keep monthly payments going for a few years, and the land is yours. And while you're making payments, you can use the land just like you would if you owned it. And it's easy to sign up and start bidding on something that catches your eye. Go to governmentauction.com. It takes less than 5 minutes. Governmentauction.com. This is about defending democracy. This is no longer Democrats versus Republicans. What do you want your kids to believe in? There must be give and take.
This is White Flag with Joe Walsh.
He is Rick Wilson, a friend of mine and somebody who I unabashedly say has been these last 6-7 years one of the most courageous political folk out there fighting the good fight. Longtime political consultant, writer, New York Times bestseller, Lincoln Project founder. Follow Rick on Twitter. Follow Lincoln Project on Twitter. Go to their website, lincolnproject.us. Also, a great new media website, Resolute Square, resolutesquare.com. Check it out. Great stuff put out every day, every week by a bunch of good writers and podcast hosts. Rick Wilson, my friend, thank you for taking a few minutes.
Absolutely, brother. I'm happy to be with you.
I want to throw 3 questions at you that I want to explore with you, and then we'll be done. Question number 1, issue number 1 is the next 18 months between now and November 24. What does it look like? What do these next 18 months look like to you? Especially, let's focus. I mean, Biden came out and announced today.
Yep.
This is broadcast. This is broadcast on Wednesday, so he announced yesterday. But the next 18 months, Rick, on the Republican side, for the Republican Party, what does it look like for you?
Well, for the Republican Party, what you're going to see, I think, and as you and I witnessed in 15 and 16, for all the bullshit everybody else is out there saying, I'm going to run this, I'm going to do that, they're all going to end up bending the knee to Trump. All the political types are going to bend the knee. All the money guys are going to bend the knee. They're going to flirt with DeSantis for a little while. They're going to flirt with Nikki Haley when DeSantis falls apart. And then it's going to just all go back to Trump. And they're going to say the same shit you and I heard over and over again back then of, I got to get on the train. I can't be left behind. I got to, he's going to be the nominee of my party. And they will all, no matter what they know about him or feel about him, they will all do the same shit they did before. They will all fall into line. And it's going to be a brutal reminder that the Republican Party you and I grew up in is dead, gone, buried, and then the cemetery was torn up and paved over, and there's a toxic waste dump on top of it now.
Why is it so hard, Rick? Rick, why is it so hard for people to understand what you just said, that my party, your party is gone, and it's been gone for a while?
You know what? There's a deep American sort of vestigial desire for the past. Everybody in there, a lot of people that you and I both know, who are good people, who hate Trump, who don't want it to be this way, they keep thinking, oh, well, something's going to reset it. Something's going to come back. Somehow we're going to go back to the old way. But we're never going back to the old way. The people who run the party now are this base that was trained for years and years on Fox and Breitbart and all the crazy stuff. And you and I have both written so much about this and talked so much about this. But the people that want it to be normal again will try to make anything in their head work to make it normal again. It's like all the guys at National Review who used to be friends, they're all like, oh, DeSantis this, DeSantis, and they're not going to get this. They don't understand. Even if they got DeSantis as the nominee, he's not a small, limited government conservative. He's not a conservative at all.
He's
an authoritarian.
Yeah.
And it's all gone. And we're like the last priests of a dead religion.
Rick, As we speak, DeSantis, I think, is in Japan, still shaking his head. I mean, what the fuck? You know him, I know him.
Yeah,
he's been tanking for the last month and a half. I don't even know that he runs.
At this point, the only thing keeping him in this race is Casey, who's picking out curtains in the East Wing.
Yeah,
that guy. Every indicator. I mean, even as we're recording this, Ken Griffith, one of his biggest financial donors, one of the biggest guys in the country on the Republican donor side, is now like, well, I may not do, I may have to help other people as well. We'll see. What I picked up, I made some calls after that article came out this morning. I picked up, he's already talking to Tim Scott's people.
Wow.
And,
wait. What's his name? Griffin is?
Ken Griffin.
Ken Griffin is? Okay.
Now, I heard that there have already been, either through him directly or his people have been talking to Tim Scott, because DeSantis is so far out over the cliff. You know, the 6-week abortion ban is for Republicans what defund the police was for Democrats. Yeah. They worked for a itty bitty tiny fraction of the party, and everybody else is like, the fuck is this? No. Yeah. And so, you know, DeSantis, I don't know why he wants to torture himself right now. He is 44 years old. He's a young guy. He's got loads of time. He's got 2 cycles, 3 cycles before he has to run. And right now, all that's staring him in the face is a wood chipper named Donald Trump.
Look, Rick, I know him, and nothing that DeSantis is doing right now, or how he's responding, or how he speaks, none of this surprises me. You know him. Why didn't people see this 2 or 3 months ago? I don't get it.
Well, I mean, it's that, again, back to the first thing we were talking about. It's that desperate wish fulfillment. They're like, somebody somebody can beat Trump. This is the guy. And so they'll overlook his like weird personal affect. And you know this better than anybody. Politics is a game of courtesies and small graces and friendships and interactions and relationships. And he is a guy who, as everybody says, kept his earbuds on, his eyes on the floor. He did not like the work, because to like the work, you have to like people. You have to like interacting with people.
He doesn't.
You have to be a social person, and he's not a social person. He's just not. I mean, look, there are plenty of people like that, and that's fine. You don't have to be, the backslapping guy everywhere in the world, but in Congress, you have to make relationships work. And think about this, Joe. What happens when he goes to like New Hampshire and has to sit in a diner with the county chairman of Merrimack County Republican Party, and that old sumbitch is 78 years old. He wants to talk about the gold standard for an hour.
God.
No way, dude. Way.
He hates that shit. Mm-hmm. He hates having to talk to people.
Iowa, dude. Think about it. Pizza Ranch. He's going to have to go in there and just suck it up every minute, and they're going to, it was very telling, because a friend of mine said, I'm going to go to one of his book signings, sort of undercover. So she went to his book signing, and she's like, okay, we couldn't take pictures with him. He would only sign our name and best wishes, Ron DeSantis. He wouldn't make eye contact. Everybody was like, there was somebody in the line like, okay, you've had your 35 seconds, go.
Yeah.
And he wasn't there. And you've got to be present with these people if you're going to win over in a primary state like South Carolina or Iowa or New Hampshire, especially. You don't get to do what you do in Florida, which is put on $20 million of television and blast the shit out of somebody. You have to go there and actually kiss ass and suck up to people. And
bingo.
It's a political skill. And some people have it and some people don't. And it's very rare you can get to the presidency without expressing some kind of human empathy and some kind of connection to real people.
Well, that's actually, Rick, because you've been in this business for 200 years. I've always wanted to ask you that question. Well, you look great. But I've always wanted to ask you that question, Rick. In today's day and age, can you get elected president if you can't fucking do retail politics?
No, you can't.
You still can't.
It's worse than ever, because there was a window where you kind of could think about getting away with it when there were 3 TV networks and 1 cable system. And you could go out and, again, the TV ads would shape your image. So you would, if you weren't good with people, you'd show an ad of you acting like you were good with people, shaking hands in the office building, sitting in the diner, hugging the children, petting the dog. Now in the age of social media where everything's on all the time, you're always on camera, you're always being streamed, you can't fake it anymore. And so if you're Ron DeSantis and you are uncomfortable, physically uncomfortable with people, and there's nothing. Look, again, there's nothing wrong with being that way. It's just that if you're going to be in a political battle for your life, and say what you will about Donald Trump, the guy is a showman.
Yes,
the guy can put on a goddamn show. The guy can go in and make people think he's talking to them. Like, people always they laugh. They're like, why does he point at people in the audience when he walks? Because he knows how to perform. He's a performer. And Ron he can't even fake it. That's the problem.
Hey, Rick, you're down there in Florida. Your Florida delegation, damn near every Republican's endorsing Trump. And I heard from one of them, I think it was Stubbe or one of them said that Trump, Trump will call me out of the blue. How are the kids? Trump will call me out of the blue, shoot the shit. He does a lot of that stuff. DeSantis doesn't do any of that.
Nope. Look, I learned this lesson way, way back in the day when I worked for George Herbert Walker Bush.
Yeah.
And I remember I went to this meeting. I was in the administration. I was a very junior guy. We had this meeting in the White House, and he pops his head in the door and says, "Hey, I heard you just got married. How you doing?" Da, 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 da. And I was like, "Holy shit!"
Wait, to you?
Yeah, to me, some fucking moot. I was the Florida guy for him, but I'm some rando basically. Yeah. And I'm like, "Oh my God, that's really." And then I thought, "Oh, the White House." Da, da, da. True story, Joe. 2000 convention. We're in Philly. I'm working for his son at that point. And I walk into this suite, and there is the former president of the United States. And he says to me, he goes, "How are your kids? How's your little girl?"
Oh, geez.
And I was like, motherfucker. That's the gift. Okay. That's the gift. That's the thing. And Ron DeSantis does not connect to people like that. And I think he and Casey, his wife, both, there's this weird imposter syndrome thing driving the two of them that they don't feel like they belong here on some weird, he's got a chip on his shoulder. I mean, we're middle-class guys, right? And I try to always keep it in perspective. Like, this world we're in is weird and there's a lot of money splashing around in it. But I'm not angry that there are billionaires out there. But he seems angry at everything. He seems pissed off. Like, he's not proud to be a kid whose dad was a cable or a Nielsen box installer from Dunedin, Florida.
Right.
Shit, I'm from about 10 miles away from the guy in Tampa. And my dad was a CPA and owned a bunch of businesses, right?
Yeah.
Great. But why is he so angry about it? Why is that chip on his shoulder so fucking huge? Well, and I think that's what drives his behavior.
Yeah, and the other thing, Rick, my chief of staff in Congress became DeSantis's chief of staff in Congress, and my God, he told me that Ron just can't engage in small talk. Like Aaron Rodgers just signed with the Jets.
Yep.
You and I could talk about this for 10 fucking minutes.
Yeah, of course.
DeSantis doesn't know how to do that kind of thing, or he doesn't like it. It's just weird.
It is very weird, and it is very off-putting, and I had somebody tell me one time that he asked DeSantis, like, "Oh, since you've been in Tallahassee, where do you guys go? Where do you eat? Where?"
Yeah.
And he was like, DeSantis' face went like blank, like, "We go to restaurants." "Oh, do you?" "Okay, well, all right."
Or even, Rick, and maybe this is too far, but if I'm DeSantis and I'm running, and I would even sit down with you. Because if you sat down with DeSantis, you wouldn't be a total dick. You'd have a good, interesting, tough interview with him.
Sure.
Like, I'd want to do that, but he just would never contemplate that.
Look, they've built a very careful bubble around him. So when he goes to press conferences, there are these 3 or 4 like super conservative Florida websites, and he'll answer their questions. And the questions are always written by his staff in advance for them.
Yeah.
"Ron, isn't it true you're the tallest, most handsome man in Florida?" "Why, yes, thank you, Florida conservative nutcase voice. I am in fact the handsomest man in Florida." It's the same shit over and over again. But that bubble, again, the reality of a campaign is you don't get to live in that fucking bubble. You go to Iowa, you go to New Hampshire, you go on a debate stage with Donald Trump, you're out of that fucking bubble.
So, okay, my strategist, this may be weird, is it too late for DeSantis not to run?
It's a great question, Joe. That's a phenomenal question.
I worry about that.
The momentum of him running, all the people now who say, who are conflicted and say, we've done all this work now.
Yeah.
And guys like Jeff Rowe, his consultant, are saying, well, I've raised all this money. I want to make some fucking cash on this thing.
Bingo.
And Jeff's got a lot of incentives to basically say to him, oh, you still have a path. You still have a way to do this. And even though that path is more narrow by the minute, they will still spin him on it. And the other factor here is Casey, who wants to be first lady. Like you and I want to suck in air every day. She wants that beyond any question, beyond anything else in this universe. She wants to be first lady, and she will push him. And even if it's going to be a disaster, that desire, that ambition is really powerful.
Is he, if he waited to 28, Rick, did he miss his window? I don't buy that shit.
No. Look, Ron DeSantis is a young guy. He's 44 years old. Yeah. He has plenty of time. He has all the time in the world right now. And this idea, there's a guy who wrote a book years ago called The United States of Ambition, a guy named Alan Ehrenholt. And it talked about how these young politicians were trying to get in earlier and earlier and earlier. And they kept blowing it. They kept trying to be like, I'm going to be the first 19-year-old elected to the county commission, and all that shit. Yeah, there is some benefit to a little bit of mileage and a little bit of tempering of your character, and having gone through wins and losses. And I will say one other thing: DeSantis keeps thinking this is going to be easy, and Casey thinks it's going to be easy because he ran in the state of Florida. Okay, he had a safe Republican seat,
right?
And I know that seat was really safe because I know who drew the seat back in the day. We shall leave that name on the table because we just will.
I hear you.
I'll tell you later.
I know who drew that seat. Because I think you've told me before.
I did, yeah. But that was one of the safest seats in Florida. And then he runs for governor against a truly shitty candidate in Andrew Gillum, who midway
almost
through the
won.
campaign, who almost beat him by 66,000 votes, even though Andrew Gillum in Florida is out saying, we're going to ban semi-automatic weapons, so your Glock pistols will have to be turned. The dumbest fucking campaign move in North Florida I've ever heard in my life, and in South Florida as well. Because it is the gunshine state, love it or hate it. It is where people love their guns more than anywhere else. And DeSantis barely beat the guy. And then he runs against Charlie Crist, where he has a 15-1 financial advantage, smashes Charlie to pieces on air. Charlie, I think, raised $9 million. DeSantis raised 200 and something. And the idea, people are like, oh, well, he won by 19 points. That's not the question. The question is, why didn't he win by 29 points? It's a red state with the best Republican Party in the country.
And Charlie Crist kicked his ass on that debate stage.
Let me tell you, Joe, that's one thing that when I was watching that debate, and I knew one other person was watching that debate, it was Donald Trump. Because when Charlie Crist, who's a spent force in Florida politics, who's just like, he's like the this year's victim, okay? He goes out there and he says, well, Ron, are you going to serve the people of Florida like you promised? Or are you going to run for president? And for 9.8 seconds, I watched the fucking timer. Ron DeSantis is like, you can see the gears instead going, and the minute I saw that, I'm like, that's it. It's over. Donald Trump will destroy him.
But Rick Wilson.
Yes,
If I were with you right now, I'd slap you upside the head. Are you telling me right now that Ron and Casey still both think, after the last 2 months, that this is going to be easy? Do you still think they think that?
I still think they think that. I think they believe that he has done this culture war play. Okay. Now, I will say this. In the last 24 hours since we're recording this on Tuesday, one of the things, and I heard this from a senior DeSantis person a few months ago, who smugly said to me, oh, we're going to win the Tucker primary.
Oh
my God,
bitch. Boy, that's huge. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, and Tucker liked him. He liked the culture war stuff that DeSantis was doing. And I don't think you're going to get the same lift out of Fox any longer that you had before yesterday. I think there was a real change in the water.
So Tucker gone, Rick, is a big hit to DeSantis.
Absolutely. He needed something in the media ecosystem. Because look, who does DeSantis have right now in the media ecosystem? Honest answer, National Review. And National Review, they've done heroic work trying to transform him into this like heroic conservative figure. But it doesn't matter because National Review is about as relevant as like Field and Stream to the voters now. It doesn't. It's Republican voters. It's old,
exactly.
It's from the old era.
Hey Rick, a quick Florida question. I was so fucking disappointed a month ago when Jeb Bush came out and attacked the New York City prosecutor. Yeah. I mean, privately and or publicly, would a guy like Jeb Bush want DeSantis to get the nomination?
Well, I think he wants DeSantis to get the nomination only because Jeb hates Trump with such a fiery passion. Okay. And look, I can't calculate. I haven't talked to Jeb about this. I can't speak for him on it, obviously. But my belief is they still have a sort of dynastic family political, ambition at some level. I don't think that as a Bush you can survive in the MAGA world. I don't think you can. Yeah. I don't think it's real anymore. I don't think it's become real to them how deeply changed, as we're always talking about, how changed the world has become. Yeah. And so look, I think Jeb's fear of and dislike of and hatred of Trump is both justified and understandable. I would not have made the leap to Ron DeSantis, who if you looked at Jeb as a conservative governor, it was lower taxes, less government, more individual liberty.
Bingo.
And now with Ron DeSantis, it's maybe less taxes, but mostly for people who are not having to pay property insurance in the damn state. A lot more government and a lot less liberty.
More. Yeah. So Rick, I think DeSantis fades. I don't think he wears well. I don't think he even runs. I think generally you agree the same. I think you and I both know that this fucking base of this party wants a son of a bitch, a bully, and authoritarian. So it's Trump. Does anybody else
or Tucker?
And I want to ask you about that. But besides Tucker right now, Rick, does anybody else get in?
Nah. Look, the rest of this field, they are either running for vice president or they're just jokers. I mean, look, we're not in a serious world where Nikki Haley, Mike Pence, Chris Christie are and they're all trying to find like one reporter to cultivate to write the story every month. Like, here's Nikki's path, or here's his. There is no path. Stop it. I mean, if you believe as I do and as we do and you do that Donald Trump is a danger to the republic and to American democracy, then you realize you can't live in a fantasy world and hope, oh, well, maybe it'll be Nikki. Maybe it'll be Mike Pence. No, it will not be. You can't take that risk. You've got to start working now against Trump, or you're going to end up like everybody in the party did in 2016. Like, I hate him. Oh, God, he's the fucking nominee.
So Rick, this is really important because everybody's been saying this is 16 going to be like, it won't be like 16. If DeSantis fades, there's really nobody else.
And the Democrats that our Democratic friends, as I said the other day on my podcast, like, they need to get their shit together. Yeah. Stop bitching. Stop complaining. I didn't get this or that in the infrastructure. Stop it. He's going to be the nominee. You're not going to get Gavin Newsom or some other fantasy dream date. It's going to be Joe Biden versus Donald Trump. Settle the fuck down. Get to work. Start hitting Trump now. Don't stop.
Which is what you and Lincoln Project are so fucking good at. Last question on Trump, Rick. He's going to be indicted again and maybe again. Yep. I don't care. Just politically, I don't think any of that matters.
I don't think it matters. His numbers have not gone down. There was a bump, and they declined a little bit, but when they declined, they're still at a higher point than they were before the indictment.
Yeah,
there were 10 polls when the FBI raided Mar-a-Lago within a 7-day window of Republican likelies that we got access to. In those polls, in 8 of them, or 6 of them, whatever it was, 6 of the 7 that we liked, Trump went up on an average of 9 points. The base thinks that, and this is a sort of like horrible, pernicious reality of Trumpism is that he has convinced his people that any critique of him, any criticism, any legal action against him is the deep state trying to take out Trump and da-da-da-da-da.
He's the victim.
He's the victim. And it's just bullshit. But it's the bullshit that defines the party now. And so they're going to stick with him even with the indictments.
And I think what's really important is so many people in the last year have just been hoping and praying and doing whatever to think he's not going to be the nominee. You've been consistent. I've been consistent.
Yep.
He's going to be the nominee. So that segues into my second question. And this scares me because a lot of people say, oh, of course he'll get the nomination, but there's no fucking way he can win again. I completely disagree with that.
There are 15 ways he can win again.
Explain.
Okay. Let me cover the worst case scenarios right now. Joe Biden has a stroke, a heart attack, a health problem, cancer, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Even if it's a minor issue, even if Joe Biden falls down in the shower and breaks his fucking hip, they're going to turn this into weak, old, sick Joe Biden versus robust, healthy, manly Donald Trump. And they're really fucking good at it. Okay. They're really good at it. We could have an economic downturn. We could have a serious recession. The housing market could crash out. The stock market could crash out. Crypto could crash out. There's 27 different economic ways this could go wrong. And Donald Trump would probably be president right now if COVID hadn't crashed the economy.
Oh, completely, Rick. Say that again. You're so fucking spot on. Yes.
And I will tell people this, and they're always like, oh, the Lincoln Project, all your viral ads are so good. I'm like, thank you. But we always did what we called an iceberg. The tip of the iceberg of the stuff you see on Twitter and social media. Most of the ads we were running in the States were about COVID and the economy and how Trump had fucked them both up and it was hurting your family. Nobody saw those in Washington or New York. But we ran thousands and thousands of variables on these ads in the swing states, and we knew that COVID and the economy were killing him underneath the surface with regular voters. Yeah. And so, if Joe Biden has an economic calamity, Trump can actually dial back the crazy and run a campaign that sounds more like a standard. I'm going to restore peace and prosperity.
Yes.
And that should scare the fuck out of people. Now, the next part of this is, there can be a significant and danger. Somebody's got a leaf blower running outside. I'm so sorry. Okay. There's a significant and dangerous potential for something international to go very wrong. China gets crazy about Taiwan. North Korea does something stupid. Russia and Ukraine goes south. Yeah. There are a million different bad scenarios in the foreign policy space, and they are very quick to blame Biden for any of those things. The next part of this is the progressives can fuck their own candidate by not being on board. They should be out there right now. You know who should be out there right now? AOC should be out there right now saying, the old man is, we don't agree on everything, but by God, I love him. He's been a great president, and I'm going to be with him 100% because this is what Republicans will do. They will say privately, that fucking Trump, God damn it, I hate him so much. And they will go out on TV and say, he's the greatest president of my lifetime. Lindsey Graham, perfect example. Yeah. I mean, I've got text messages on my phone for years of Lindsey like, that asshole. And this fucking guy goes out and says, I love him so much. Yeah. So the progressives can tank their own candidate very easily. Yes. They can bitch and moan. Also, they can go out and they can outrun their coverage on issues that are not working for the rest of America.
Thank you.
And I say this a lot, and I get my Democrat friends very angry with me. Yeah. But if you have a candidate in this country who says defund the police, the response is fuck you, shut up. Yeah. Also, fuck you and shut the fuck up. Yeah. Because I have never seen a push poll item, a polling question that drives more Republicans, including the kind we need to get back to Trump. I've never seen anything that drives male Democrats back to Trump. I've never seen anything that drives African American Democrats back toward Trump. It's insanity. Defund the police is the dumbest fucking thing in the history of mankind. It is the worst.
Rick, any kind of soft on crime shit. If they do anything bad on street crime, they're just going to get pounded.
Right. And I will say this: the average voter in the country is not where they were 5 years ago on gun control.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about crime, you have to lead with crime and dealing with the criminal.
Yes.
You can't say, "Oh well, we'll just get rid of the guns," because no one believes it. In the surveys, no one believes it. Yeah. Because criminals don't follow gun control laws, and people know that.
Yeah.
You can put that can be a part of the portfolio of messages, but it has to be carefully done, and you have to lead with saying, first, we get the criminal. First, we get the criminal. And you know, it's in the last 3 years, Americans have purchased 60 million guns.
Yeah. No.
35% of those guns were purchased by African Americans or Hispanics. This is
women.
Women. This is not something that is the clean shot issue that the Democrats think it is in a presidential race. And it is a poison pill in a lot of these purple states like North Carolina, and Arizona, which the Democrats must win. They must win those states. And those states are states with high gun ownership and with large minority populations that are purchasing firearms because they feel like crime is out of control in this country.
Hey, Rick, I feel like Democrats forget how closely Trump came to getting reelected. Correct me if I'm wrong, like 55,000 votes
55,000 votes among
Arizona, Wisconsin.
Yeah, 55,000 votes among 4 states. Okay.
That's it.
And in the first time, he won by, he beat Hillary by 160,000 votes in 3 states. I mean, these are going to be close elections. Don't pursue, every policy fantasy in the book. The other thing I think that could cost the election is, while it has become a caricature of the whole wokeism thing, this country still has a lot of people who are not gender studies majors from Bowdoin College. There's a lot of people who are not San Francisco, New York, Boston, LA liberals.
So have some patience, Democrats.
So do what happened with gay marriage. Let things evolve as they evolve.
Yeah.
Because once gay marriage evolved as a thing where America did not view it as some radical transformational social change that was going to be forced on them, they went with it.
Yes.
And I got a lot of shit way back in the late 2008 or 9, I think. Because I was like, what the fuck business is it of the government who gets married? I don't care.
Right.
It's not the government's business. But that was unpopular for a while. But a lot of the woke stuff, a lot of the race questions, a lot of the gender equity questions, those things right now have become a signifier inside the Republican world for the boogeyman, the bad guy, the people that are trying to make America less white, less straight, all that stuff. If you want to play those things out, they're not going to be the center of the campaign in a beneficial way. Let them evolve naturally.
Rick, a last question on this. My biggest concern for the Democratic Party is it's become kind of an elite, white, liberal, college grad kind. They fucking lost connection with working class Americans, and a lot of it goes to what you're talking about.
Look, I will never forget this. We ran a longitudinal study and with a group of voters outside of in Oakland County, Michigan. Okay.
Yeah.
And we interviewed this guy. The first time we interviewed him in a focus group was 2006, and he had voted for Ronald Reagan. The first time he voted, he had been a Republican voter straight through.
Yeah.
And in 2006, he was fucking furious. He's like, I fuck George Bush. My son's on his second deployment, this and that. And he's just like, rip shit. My plant just closed down. The plant my father worked in and my grandfather worked in, and now I have to work in a call center. I got no health care. He was mad. Okay. He was voting for Obama. And he voted for Obama.
Wow.
And the second time around, the second Obama term, he's like, well, I don't like him. It's not working out for me. My life hasn't changed. They keep telling me I'm going to get a solar panel job, or I'm going to become a holistic geothermal installer, all this job retraining shit. They didn't believe it. You know why? Because it was bullshit.
Yeah.
And it hurt the Democrats with working class people in the Midwest and in the upper Midwest especially. Guy voted for Trump in 2016. When we interviewed him in 2016,
Obama, Trump.
When we interviewed this guy in 2016, he was foaming at the fucking mouth, crazy red hat. Ship them Mexicans home. We're done. Yeah. And it shocked me how a conservative Democrat who'd been a Reagan Democrat,
right,
and a Bush Democrat had flipped completely from Barack Obama, the most progressive president of our lifetimes, to Donald Trump. And that working class appeal of Trump and that working class appeal of people like Tucker, where they pretend that they're all for the working man.
It's bullshit, but it's real.
It's an act, but it's an act that works. I call it the fake orgasm of politics, right? It's loud and it's effective. And these guys do this in a way that Democrats come down and say, well, obviously your job in the dirty, dirty coal mine and your job building those horrible cars, you're not building electric solar powered cars with the right aura. Well, whatever the fuck that is. But they insult these people. They tell them they can't help but lead with shit like, well, we honor farmers, but you must accept your role in climate change first before. Get the fuck out of here,
Rick.
They insult these people, and they have built a trap for themselves.
Look, I think your former party and my former party is dying as a national party. The only thing propping them up is how fucking bad the Democrats are with working class voters. It just scares me.
And as my colleague Reed Galen always says, he goes, you got three guys working on a road crew, and there's a black guy, a white guy, and a Hispanic guy, and they're out there on the hot 150-degree sun, laying tar down on the road, and the white lady drives by in the Land Rover with the diversity sticker on the back. They all hate her.
Oh my God! Listen to what Rick Wilson is saying right now. This is spot on. So to wrap this up, and no predictions, no nothing. This fucking race, if this is Biden-Trump, this is going to be close again.
It's going to be close. It's going to be brutal. People better tune up, because the next 16, 17 months are going to be the hardest we've ever had in American politics. Every hand to the oars, as they say, because we don't have any margin for error. None.
Close with this, Rick. Assume Trump loses in November of 24. What do the next 2 to 4 years look like after that for the Republican Party if Trump loses?
Yeah, I think there's a potential at that point. That's when I'm going to really be looking at what happens. Is there a sufficient mass of people who want a center-right small government party that's based on the Constitution? You may end up. The Republican Party at that point may become the Whig Party of 1854, where they had voted essentially against their principles for slavery, and it destroyed the party. I think we may reach that point in the spring of 2025.
If Trump loses,
if he wins, we'll be doing our podcast from Portugal.
Because completely, you and I both.
They will be hunting us at that point, because he will go after revenge. He really will.
Can I? And Rick, I just need to interject because you've said that, and I know that. I think people need to know that when Rick Wilson says you'll be doing the podcast from Portugal, and I do, we're dead serious.
Yeah,
I'm serious.
And I'm not one of those guys like, I'm just going to leave if the wrong guy gets like. No, I'll leave because they'll fucking come and arrest me.
Agreed.
This will not be America like you know it. It will not be the America you imagine. He will put in people in the Justice Department, not who are going to be dedicated to the law, but who are going to carry out his revenge.
So right. If Trump wins, forget it. We're gone. Yep. Forget about it. If Trump loses, Rick, you think there's a chance that
it's a narrow pathway.
Okay.
And I think, look, again. At that point, Rupert will be dead.
Yeah. Fox
will have changed because of the departure of Tucker, the lawsuits, the cultural moment. We're going to lose that. The rest of the small number of silent generation and the oldest boomers will be gone.
Yeah.
There will be a moment for redemption. It is a narrow pathway, but I think this country needs two parties. I think it needs two functioning parties who contend on the basis of broad philosophical questions, not on one side is pie in the sky and one side is a hate group.
I've never asked you this, Rick. I like the way you said that this country does need two functioning parties. Does the country need more than two functioning parties? Or
Listen, I think we already have de facto on the Democratic side two functioning parties on their side. We have a progressive wing, which is a smaller party, and we have a traditional Democratic Party wing. They're still under the same banner. Yeah. But I think the country, we're almost at that point. The two-party system has been incredibly powerful over time. Yeah. But there are so many cracks and fragments in it now, and the Republican Party was wildly irresponsible and did not exercise judgment and integrity in 2016, and left us where we are today. And that party is enthralled to Donald Trump. There are a lot of people like us who would love to have a party. It's like, let's go fight it out over free markets and lower taxes and individual liberty and personal responsibility and strong foreign policy. I would love to see that happen. It would be a good thing for the Democrats. It would tune them up and make them less insular.
Should people like you and I and others like you and I just become conservative Democrats?
There was an era that my father was a conservative Democrat. Yeah. And, that's sort of where I came out of. Right. A lot of my family were Republicans, but my father was a conservative Democrat. He was a Scoop Jackson style, JFK style conservative Democrat. Yeah. That's certainly an option. It's a very small window in that party to have those voices heard. But I think you're going to end up with a recognition, and I think Ukraine has helped the Democrats a lot. It has given them something where they said, "Oh, here's an item of moral clarity where the U.S. we're not going to portray ourselves as the bad guys, and we're going to do it in a bounded and careful way." I don't know. I kind of think the Biden foreign policy is an unappreciated aspect of a successful presidency. He's been strong, rebuilt our alliances around the world, in Europe and NATO especially, rebuilt our alliances in the Pacific as China is this growing force.
He got us out of Afghanistan. Trump never did.
And for all the Republicans' bullshit and lies about Afghanistan, Joe Biden did the hard thing. And got shit on for it. Where the easy thing would have been to say, and remember, Barack Obama was getting us out of Afghanistan in 2008. And that shit, the easy way to do it was not to do it. Yeah, exactly. The easy thing was to not do it. We could have grounded out for another, X number of years and Y number of bodies. And it was tough. And
Two real quickies to close. I want a gut 20-second answer, a reaction to this. No labels. Go.
No labels will reelect Donald Trump. They're putting their efforts and their ballot initiative efforts into states where Biden must win, and they are going to have Joe Manchin on their ballot as their presidential candidate. He is going to draw off conservative Democrats. He's the anti-Lincoln project, and they're gonna win for Donald Trump. And they're doing this because Nancy Jacobson and Mark Penn have a 20-year fucking psychotic revenge fantasy against the Clintons who fired them years ago.
Yeah. Will they do it, Rick?
Listen,
hard to tell.
They seem determined to do it. There's getting a lot of pushback now from their donors. Yeah. They're small dollar donors, but their big donors are all wealthy Republicans like Harlan Crow, the guy that the guy that Clarence Thomas is palling around with on yachts.
Last question, and it's personal. Give me an intimate answer to this. What do you really fucking do when you turn everything off and just chill? I mean, just fucking chill. I mean, Rick, get away from everything.
Right. I either fly my airplane or I go out on my property here because I got a lot of it, and I cut down trees with chainsaws and listen to podcasts or music, or read books.
Keep doing it, because America needs you going for the next 16 to 17 months. Follow Rick Wilson on Twitter. Follow Lincoln Project on Twitter. check out resolutesquare.com for some great shit, and they've got more interesting stuff coming. As always, lincolnproject.us. Support the good work they do. Rick Wilson, thank you, brother.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate you.
Joe Walsh here, governmentauction.com. It's a live auction site where you bid against other people interested in surplus government land. Have you ever wanted a 40-acre plot of land? Governmentauction.com has it. If you're the low bidder, you don't go through any credit checks. You just make a low down payment. Keep those monthly payments coming for a few years, and the land is yours. And it takes less than 5 minutes to sign up. So go to governmentauction.com, go to governmentauction.com and start bidding today.